Hello everyone. Welcome to Disruption Diaries, where we break down the stories of businesses that shape our daily world. I am Shantanu and I'm here with Jinal. Welcome, Jinal.
Hey, Shantanu.
Hi. Jinal, let's start by introducing ourselves.
Sure, why don't I go first?
Yeah, please.
So, my name is Jinal Sangvi, everyone. A little bit about me. I grew up in Mumbai, where I did my undergrad in economics and statistics at St. Xavier's College. Out of college, as a naive 21-year-old, my goal was to change the world for the better. Worked in social impact startups for a few years before going to do my MBA in ISB, Indian School of Business, which is where I found my co-host and became friends with Shantanu Patnaik. Post ISB, I worked at ThoughtWorks, which is a tech consulting firm, before moving to Amazon India. I have been with Amazon India for the past 5 years as a program manager in multiple teams. I absolutely love learning about companies, analyzing their strategy, financials, and their teams. I have been writing about these related topics on LinkedIn for a few years now. And ever since Shantanu actually introduced me to the Acquired podcast by Ben and David, I've been wanting to do something similar for Indian companies. So I'm really excited about this.
Great. Thanks, Jinal. That's some journey, right? Let me also introduce myself. So I was a mechanical engineer, right? And I started off my career building and commissioning a steel plant with Dallas State in a very remote part of India. Then for my MBA, I went to Indian School of Business where I met you. Post MBA, I have worked at multiple startups focusing on P&L and streamlining the operations. I love reading about business models of young startups and businesses, right? And learning about the founders and their mindsets, right? And I'm glad, and to be honest, a bit nervous to be doing this with you right now. So what are we doing today? Which company will we be covering?
So I'm really excited about this, Shantanu. We are going to be talking about PhonePe. Let's talk about why we picked PhonePe first. I'll go with the top two reasons why I think PhonePe is worth studying. It's one of the best acquisitions in Indian startup history, which has turned out so great for Flipkart, right? Not many acquisitions actually turn out very, very well for the acquirer. It's so similar to actually the PayPal and eBay story. And it so seems, and PhonePe seems so poised to overtake Flipkart, and with the recent release of their annual financials and the first report in August 24, it gave us a great inside view on the company's performance and their operations. So I think it's a company that's worth studying.
Right, and apart from YouTube, I think that is one of the most used apps also, either that or Google Pay or Paytm, right? Because we use it in our daily lives, right? So that makes sense. And I think it's more comparable to how SGFC Bank and SGFC also grew together, right? SGFC formed SGFC Bank, and then SGFC Bank actually subsumed or acquired its parent company. We might see that in the future as well, right? And also I think PhonePe has created a lot of millionaires in India with its massive soft tool and buyback that it does regularly, right? So that's another reason for us to also understand more about this company, what it does, and how it builds its own business, right? So let me start by saying what exactly is PhonePe, right? So for the uninitiated, PhonePe is basically a financial intermediary or app which connect customers and merchants together along with the bank accounts. Right, so customers and their bank account is connected via PhonePe. A merchant, their bank account is connected via PhonePe, and the PhonePe connects both the customers and merchants together. Right, so it's an app basically which was built by the founders in order for customers to be able to spend their money, to send money to their parents or to their friends or anyone they want, as well as right now to grow as manage their entire financial net worth. So it's kind of the superall app for financial well-being of any person in India. That is what they aspire, right?
Yeah, let me stop you there. I really like how you summarized, right? Send money, spend money, manage, and grow money. That pretty much summarizes the PhonePe business model.
Right. Let's talk about the founders. Exactly who were they? Why did they build this? And how exactly they went about building this company?
So PhonePe was founded in 2015 by three co-founders. They were all Flipkart and longtime friends. It was launched initially as a digital wallet, facilitating mobile recharges, bill payments. and finally sort of evolved to the digital financial landscape and became the sort of flagship product on UPI that it is today. Let's talk about the founders a little bit. The three co-founders are Samir Nigam, Rahul Chari, and Burzin Engineer. All three of them go way back, and it kind of speaks to how good companies are built on friendships. So let me tell you a little bit about each of them. First, Sameer, who is currently the CEO of PhonePe. I've heard so many interviews, and Shantanu, I know you have as well. And I must say that Sameer comes across as extremely sharp, extremely future ready, and very, very direct. He did his schooling in Delhi and received his computer engineering undergraduate degree in Mumbai. Further went on to University of Arizona for his Masters of Science in Computer Engineering and later did his MBA at the Wharton School, graduating in about 2009. He studied with his co-founder and CTO, Rahul Chari, at the Sardar Patel College of Engineering in Mumbai. So they've actually known each other for a very, very long time. The third co-founder, Burzin Engineer, also goes back with Sameer for a very long time. They met at Los Angeles when Sameer was just starting out his earlier career in about 2000-2001. So these co-founders are literally joined at the hips. Their first venture that they built actually was in the music industry. It was called Mime 360, which was essentially an exchange platform connecting content owners with content publishers, such as Saregama, India Times, so on. Mime 360 was acquired by Flipkart back then. They were looking to acquire small companies and grow their team and wanted to sort of build the digital music distribution service. I don't think actually it went very well for them. Like it didn't go anywhere in Flipkart, but Sameer and his team learned a bunch from, Sachin and Vinny at Flipkart. Just this vision for building large-scale innovation and execution to take on giants like Amazon in the world. Nigam actually served as Vice President of Engineering and Marketing at Flipkart before the three of them left to build out PhonePe. And very soon it was, go ahead.
So there was this interesting story actually connecting why they went out to build PhonePe from Flipkart. So as you know, back in 2014, Flipkart launched one of the biggest innovations in Indian e-commerce business, which was called the Big Billion Day, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was a one-day event, right? Which basically meant that everything was on sale on the platform. But they did not, while they did promote it, they did not expect the response that they got from the customers, right? Their systems were fried, literally all systems, tech systems, operations, etc. They could not handle the load. And payments was also one of the systems that failed it, right? And it happened the next year also, in 2015. And that is where Samir Nigam and Burzin and Rahul thought that this is actually a very big and genuine use case problem that needs real-life solutions. And they thought they should focus their bandwidth on building out the solution in form of PhonePe when they started out in December 2015, incorporated. They started out, as you said, as a digital wallet, right? But then events happened in 2016, which basically skyrocketed their entire growth journey and changed and transformed the company as we know it.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what really happened in 2016 that probably is the reason why PhonePe is where it is today?
So before that, I will let you know a bit about the background also before coming to that. One thing happened is PhonePe was not the first app out there, right, in trying to solve these problems, right? There was a behemoth back then called Paytm, right, which was already a 5-6-year-old company which had huge money in its bank account, as well as some distinguished investors like Ratan Tata supporting it, right, or investing in it, right? And they had more than 10 million users in their app already. And so PhonePe was not the first app out there. So they were trying to fight off this existing behemoth. It was kind of the battle between David and Goliath, which we will later learn that.
Wow, so PhonePe was actually the underdog back then.
Absolutely underdog, right? And that is when I think Samir Nigam made one of the most crucial decisions is to sell off the entire company to Flipkart, right? Earlier, even with hardly 5 or 6 month company, Flipkart paid $20 million to Nigam and his co-founders, right? And completely sold off the company. Two reasons. One, for this was to have the necessary bandwidth and bank account to be able to fight off the behemoth that we know as Paytm, right? Second is he wanted to focus everything on building the app, right? On building a very reliable, secure application, financial application, rather than focusing most of his aspects on building or raising funds at that point of time. And he was a champion of the culture that he wanted to build in, and he found a primary culture fit between how the Bunsons operated at Flipkart. He saw the match and he took the bet. And I think that was one of the most wisest decisions in this PhonePe journey, as you will see.
Yeah, getting acquired very early on, in fact, worked out well for PhonePe and Flipkart, I guess.
Right. And it was a marriage of friends, right, who knew each other, as well as culture, how they wanted to build both these companies, focusing mostly on people and on financial integrity rather than on building fast and breaking fast sort of culture, right? So that also helped him grow.
Yeah, you've talked about culture, so maybe let's take a short pause there. And I really want to talk about culture. Coming from Amazon, I know how dear Amazon holds its leadership principles, and it just seems like PhonePe does as well, its values and its culture. Looking at its annual report, I really loved how much real estate they sort of spent on calling out its values, and they called upfront integrity. In the exact words, what is written is integrity and honesty are the price of admission to PhonePe, and we follow a zero tolerance policy towards bribery, corruption, dishonesty, discrimination, and internal politics. Shantanu, you know which other company in India holds up integrity so upfront?
My next company, Tata's.
Yes, you are right. It's the Tatas. The other few values that I found very interesting is one set on how they conduct their business. For example, positive disruption. PhonePe builds open, inclusive, and empowering business models that benefit all ecosystem partners. The other one being learn fast, fail fast. PhonePe's roadmap to success has not been an easy one. It has been paved with multiple failures, which we often don't discuss as much, which is the PhonePe calculator, merchant ATMs, the switch platform. And finally, there are values about organizational context in which an employee is operating. For example, company level values such as perseverance and conviction, which allows us to focus on long-term sustainable value creation. Or there are team-level values such as collaboration, which makes employees hold the organization's goals above everything else. So I really like, the emphasis and focus on culture that the founders have given.
No, absolutely. I also firmly believe that a company, especially in its young infancy, should focus on certain long-term ideals rather than just short-term wins, right? Especially when it's scaling as fast as PhonePe has done. It's very important to keep those guardrails in place so that there are values that guide the team, especially during such kind of decision making.
You spoke about Paytm, right? And how Paytm was the big behemoth and PhonePe was the underdog. But then something changed. Can you tell me more about that, Shantanu?
Sure. So it's all in 2016, right? And three events in very quick succession actually changed the entire Indian digital payment industry. The first, back in April 2016, was the launch of UPI, which was basically launched by a consortium of banks called NPCI, right, who launched this. And UPI is basically product in the payment system which acts as a protocol, right? And it facilitates interbank peer-to-peer or peer-to-merchant, person-to-merchant transactions. And that helped a lot for PhonePe's growth. The second thing is, in September, Mr. Ambani launched the Jio, and that gave a data revolution to India. And it was free of cost for the first 6, 7, 8 months. All data, all calls. Their customers acquisition strategy was to give it out for free. That, if you realize, that killed a lot of players in the mobile industry, in the data industry. But again, the top two survived, and that was the juggernaut that started it all. And in November, Mr. Modi announced the demonetization, which basically gave the boost to all digital payment in India. So these three primary events in quick succession helped PhonePe propel itself and leapfrog its competition and establish itself as the leading digital payments player in India.
Wow, it was about timing, really, right? At that time, rapid penetration of affordable smartphones, access to low cost, high speed internet, forward looking government policies, Jan Dhan Yojana, investment in digital public infrastructure such as Aadhaar, UPI, and of course, that unique tailwind of demonetization. So, how did exactly PhonePe sort of surpass some of its peers like Paytm? What did they do well?
So they had very strong foundations, Jinal. Like they had a great platform, and by great I mean that they used it in terms of building exceptional reliability and security. That is what they knew that many people or many Indians coming from a cash-based culture in order to do digital payments, they need to be secure of the transactions, and the transactions need to be processed reliably. That is what they built as the USP of the platform, right? Then initially they started off acquiring customers like us primarily via cashbacks, giving cashbacks as many of the companies did back then, and via very clever marketing strategies in order to capture this audience, right? Then they learned from Paytm to get more and more merchants on there. So that is how they started building the network of both customers on one end and merchants on another end, right? And they adopted a feet on a street kind of model in order to basically paint the town purple. Before that, the town was painted blue with Paytm, but then PhonePe came in and started pasting their QR codes everywhere across the major cities, right? And all the merchants, small vendors, big vendors, started adopting PhonePe as a payment method, right? So that created a very unique network of both customers as well as merchants on the platform that they have now leveraged. So back then it seemed that they will be burning only cash, but they had this trust built in with their fundamentals of building a reliable and secure platform. Now with the network effects, they have the data also in order to generate the revenue that we are seeing that they are generating right now.
Right, there's a lot of Indianness to PhonePe, right? Like versus Google Pay, and we've discussed this PAY, like the foreign thing, while PhonePe is playing on the Indianness with PhonePe aa jayega.
Right.
And I think that kind of resonated with a lot of Indians back then.
Actually, they spell the pay as a PE, right, in Hindi rather than as Amazon or Paytm or Google Pay do, which is in the English and spelled as PAY, right? And they use this in their marketing strategy also. I remember earlier in their ads with Vineet Singh of Mukkebaz and Gangs of Wasseypur fame, he used to say to his wife that the money will come on her PhonePe, and she would be acting confused whether it is on the app PhonePe or on the phone itself PhonePe, right? So that was a very clever play on words that worked out, and they also used it in terms of the marketing strategy.
Yeah, before we actually deep dive on their revenue model and financials, I just wanted to sort of recap where PhonePe is now, right? And from where it started. As of March 2024, the company is said to have 53 crore registered users, approximately 20 crore monthly active customers, 50 lakh plus net payment devices deployed, processes about 770 plus crore transactions monthly, amounting to a whooping USD $1.5 trillion on an annualized basis in total payment value. In fact, I pay my mates through PhonePe, right? And we've discussed like they simply tell me, Didi PhonePe par kar do na. And I looked at my own history in the last year, and I've seen about 500 transactions that I have done, which is almost 2 a day. I use multiple UPI apps, but PhonePe is actually my default and I find it most reliable. In fact, I was a Google Pay user earlier, but switched to PhonePe about 2 years ago. What about you, Shantanu?
So I differ slightly. PhonePe is my backup. My primary is still Google Pay, right? I find that interface a bit more intuitive. We'll come to it later also. But anytime Google Pay fails, right, and it's more than I would actually like it to, the transactions also. So I quickly switched to PhonePe in order to make the payment where it goes out very seamlessly, right? So that is how it continues for me, Kiran. Let's focus on the business model. So for customers, basically, PhonePe is still kind of free, right? They don't charge the customers for the transactions. Right? So the business model primarily involves on enabling the merchants to accept a variety of payment options, right? And through offerings that they have. And they have offerings at various scales also. So for small vendors, street side vendors or merchants, they have QR codes or sound boxes, right? The QR codes give them revenue not from the vendors itself, but from subsidy by the government. So the government also pays these intermediaries who help transfer, who help UPI transactions via subsidies, and PhonePe receives about 10% of the revenue from these subsidies itself, right? And apart from it, the sound boxes that we are now used to, right, with PhonePe and Amitabh Bachchan thanking us for the payment after every payment, they charge a subscription revenue for those also. For medium and large merchants, they have POS devices, right, or card machines as we call them, where they charge the MDR rate, which is 2 to 3%, and the subscription revenue as well. Right.
Got it. So primarily the platform, the customers, and the merchants, those are their revenue drivers.
Right. And for online businesses, they have payment gateway where they charge the MDR fees also. Apart from it, they are also leveraging the huge app traffic to sell ads. So there is PhonePe ads also, which go ahead and brings in a lot of revenue for them. Now, apart from merchants, they have also tried to monetize the huge trove of customer data that they have via primarily cross-selling and upselling, right? So they have these new product lines that they have brought in terms of also being a fintech company, wealth tech company, insurtech company, right? So the consumers come to the app for a variety of payments, use cases, be it P2P or merchant payments, mobile recharges, utilities, etc. They try selling them some kind of loans might be needed or insurances, be it auto insurance, etc. They try to sell them and they earn commission from it. So that becomes an additional stream of revenue for them. Apart from this core revenue that they get from operations, they also have some new businesses that they have expanded to, right? Jinal, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually. From the initial financial payments business, I think very recently the annual report and the founders repeatedly say their ambition now is to build internet platforms that help all Indian citizens improve their lives, realize their aspirations, and unlock true potential. This is probably why they launched Pincode, which is an e-commerce play, share market to grow the money and insurance and so much more, right? Indus App Store, in fact, the Make in India App Store for phone companies. But these are yet to really take off, given that they face strong competition in each of these businesses. But what's interesting, and maybe if you can touch upon that, Shantanu, is how traditional companies went from the top of the funnel, right? Google search, Amazon's sort of customer views to drive conversion and build purchases. PhonePe has just such rich data on what customers already are buying and are looking and are transacting on, and then are building on the top of the funnel items and businesses, which is just so much more targeted. So that opportunity is huge.
Absolutely, Jinal, right? And traditionally, we have seen that companies focus on customer behavior before purchase, right? How they are browsing, what time they are browsing, right? What kind of products they are looking at, and end of the day, what they are buying, right? So that funnel narrows down, right? And you are looking at the largest set of data, which may or may not be useful in making the purchase. While now companies are focusing mostly on what they have purchased and backtracking it into what other kinds of product they might or might not like. That is why we have seen behemoths like Apple, like Google, etc., also venturing into the payment space, right? In order to just capture this data as to what the customers are buying and help them cross-sell and upsell additional products. This is where PhonePe has done. They first had the payments section completely solved out and have a treasure trove of data. Now they are looking to backtrack and find out the products that they can sell via ONDC network, which is designed, and their app Pincode.
Yeah, such an interesting way to sort of build business. And just sort of recapping for our listeners here, their financial performance in FY 23-24, its revenue crossed 5,000 crore and it grew 74% year on year, while turning adjusted PAT positive for the first time. So PAT excluding their ESOP, which is employee stock options, in fact, FY 23-24 was positive 710 crores versus a 194 crore loss in FY 22-23. And I just wanted to sort of talk about their financial strategy a bit. It's anchored on three big pillars. One is predictable and sustainable growth in revenue, which we saw, healthy 74% year on year. Diversification of revenue streams. We've spoken about some of the big bets that they have made in the last couple of years on other sources of revenue apart from their core financial platform. And continuous improvement, lastly, on their bottom line, adjusted PAT positive for the first time, and I'm pretty sure in the near future should be completely PAT positive. So yes, PhonePe has become a big part of our daily life.
Absolutely, but it did not start off that well for PhonePe. They had to build through it, right? Because they had to fight off Paytm and Google Pay also. Paytm had a huge lead, right? But a few things that they did well was basically built for scale from the day one, that the founders have the vision and ambition to do it, right? They made bets on making sure that the app that they built is for customers, not only in the urban segments, but also in the rural segments via vernacular usage. They have more than 12 languages on their app right now, right? So Paytm, what they did earlier on was basically they had a huge feet on street model and they put QR codes everywhere, right? They increased the supply and demand followed. But one thing that really messed up back then is that they kept on focusing on the wallet and underestimated UPI. They actually launched UPI in the second half of 2017, which gave PhonePe a year's head start to actually start increasing their customer base, right? And they spread out the offline presence fast. PhonePe, they literally painted the town purple, as I said, when they started automating everything. So that helped them beat Paytm, at least in the UPI side of journeys, and then they have capitalized on that. And Google, as you might know, entered the market really late. Back in 2017, it entered. They started off as an app called Pays. Later on, they rebranded themselves as Google Pay, right? They focused on simplicity and ease of use, but the failure rate initially was really high, and the money gets stuck in the processing state, right? You don't even know why it failed. Even a few days back, I was trying UPI Lite on Google Pay and it was stuck in the processing state. I had to reset the entire UPI Lite. So that experience of Google Pay actually leaves a lot to be solved for from their end. And also pre-2020, Google Pay had this unnecessary turn on location to pay because they wanted all this data. Every time you have to pay, you have to turn on your location, right? I'm not sure whether it's for security or for data purposes, and I will let you decide for that. So, but PhonePe was the only app which had the least failures they back then, right? And even now. So, and even if it fails, it very clearly states the reason why it failed, right? So that helped in capturing a lot of market share from Paytm, from Google Pay in terms of building the lead on UPI side of things, where literally every 1 in 2 transactions is a PhonePe transaction.
Yeah, they have a whooping like 47-48% market share. What do you think of their user experience, Shantanu? I know you're not that big a PhonePe user, but I find it very sort of simple to use and it's my default app. I feel just it's so functional. What is your thought on PhonePe versus some of the other competitors out there?
So PhonePe, as I said, the UI and UX is good, right? I find it very similar to what Paytm and PhonePe have done, right? The top section of each app has the key necessary drivers that are used on a day-to-day basis, right? Apart from it, if you see in terms of the money sending to your friends or a merchant transaction that needs to be done, then there is the reward and refer and earn section on below it, the wallet and rewards sections, right? Then they have recharge and bill payments on their app, right? Which is clubbed under services. It is useful for the first time, but then if you have to change the amount or the biller or cancel the auto pay, you will have to go inside each service, which I find very cumbersome, right? I would have loved it how Google Pay has served for it. I have added a biller to it. I know I have to pay that. I don't need to go into each and every services, say electricity payment or water payment, and then look into it. Apart from it, there are many other sections with the same format of a white card with the 4 purple icons, right? And the services seem to be in order of the business priority to maximize revenue, which is loan, insurance, and wealth. I personally find the bottom section pretty cluttered, repetitive, and my brain ignores it as a blind spot. I have rarely gone below that, right? What I use most frequently is the top section as well as the bottom, which has a sticky scanner kind of thing where you can scan your QR code and immediately pay off.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, coming to think of it, PhonePe is quite a vanilla app, functional, but I think if you were to look at purely from a product and user experience point of view, Google Pay has a more superior product, but PhonePe is clearly doing some things right to be the market leader. I want to talk about some of the challenges that PhonePe is currently facing. Last year, we heard about the potential 30% market cap for any company in the processing payments UPI stage. That's a big one for PhonePe, right? What are your thoughts, Shantanu?
So the NPCI, which is basically the developer of UPI, right, who have developed this protocol, they try to limit the market share that any single third-party app provider like PhonePe or like Paytm can have, right? So they're trying to do this. They actually reprimanded the banks for allowing such kind of third-party providers to take a lead. Because none of the banks, if you see HDFC or SBI, their own UPI apps have not taken off as much as they should, right? So the challenge of NPCI is to bring it more level playing because currently PhonePe is running away with it, honestly. But I don't see how they can do it, right? It's end of the day, it's a free market. Customers decide what interface they really like, what app they want to use it. I hope NPCI does not put in rules like RBI does sometimes, which is stop onboarding of any new users onto the platform or starts limiting the transactions if it goes beyond a certain percentage. I would find that pretty detrimental to the entire spirit of developing the best app out there and providing the best consumer experience.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the founders have also spoken about this in a few forums, right? And it's just I agree with them. How can you ask entrepreneurs to degrow their customer base or to stop sign-ups? And it's not like there are any significant barriers to entry. There are tons of UPI players, right? If they haven't been able to succeed, the onus should be on the other companies to grow and not PhonePe to degrow. In terms of other challenges, right? We've spoken about the need for diversification for PhonePe, and it's clear they have made some big bets, whether it be in the e-commerce or in the sort of managing money, wealth creation, even Indus App Store. But there are significant big players already in each of these, right? Managing money, you have Zerodha, Grow, insurance, you have Policy Bazaar. So it's going to be quite difficult for PhonePe to make a mark in each of these verticals, but I do think the market's big enough for multiple players, and if they execute well, they could win, right? What do you think?
Absolutely, these are big markets in India and currently seem to be underpenetrated. Right? While I don't think that PhonePe will be the leading player as it has been with UPI, right? But definitely there is a place for them in order to do and get some business because they have the huge user base of more than 50 million, 50 million, right? Users right now that they have. So definitely they will be using it, that data trove, in order to cross-sell, upsell, and give people what they want. And they may not be the number one player in this business because there is growing competition in fintech from these companies, and they are more specialized on those aspects than PhonePe is. But I definitely feel they will be able to expand into such kind of businesses.
Yeah, another exciting thing that I've been reading about is PhonePe going global, right? With partnerships in 6 other countries, Singapore, UAE, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Mauritius. I'm sure others are in the works. This will be like the first product that is Indian made, going global and teaching others how to replicate some of its success in India, enabling customers across the world to transact using UPI, PhonePe. So I'm actually quite excited about its global aspirations as well.
It's following UPI wherever UPI, the NPCI and the government of India is also trying to push UPI outside of India, right? So PhonePe is definitely following that path wherever UPI goes, they are following. The bigger challenge I feel would be to actually navigate through the regulatory environments of those countries and build a payment product or a payment app that is actually suited for that country rather than fitting in what has already worked in India. But as Sameer Nigam has stated multiple times, their primary focus is primarily on the Indian market. They have shifted the domicile from Singapore to India in order to be completely India-centric, have all the data stored in India, be pretty much within the Indian borders, serve the customers first. But I still think these are early days for the international markets for them. But there is definitely a big scope for them because they have learned a huge amount of things.
Right, yeah. Should we summarize key takeaways so far?
Absolutely. So let's just say, summarize by saying that PhonePe is a giant. They have every 1 in 2 transactions are currently being processed on UPI via PhonePe. They are doing many things right. They have cross-sell. They have built their merchant base pretty strong. They are monetizing that. They have been going into additional avenues of revenue, which seem to be working for them right now. But that does not leave without challenges because there are existing players who will definitely fight out for that market. And let's not hope that there are also upcoming players like Navi, like Flipkart, who are also launching, and Craig, which are also launching their UPI product. And it would be very ironical if these companies do to PhonePe what literally PhonePe has done to Paytm, right? So there are definitely challenges for PhonePe to execute, but I'm pretty much confident that they will be able to deliver because they have this continuous ability to innovate. They have a good user experience. They have forged strategic partnerships in the past and continue to do so. And most importantly, they have managed this really well. So I am very bullish on PhonePe and how they want to be doing so going forward.
Yeah, I think they're going to dominate the Indian new age tech ecosystem like they already are for the near future. Will it IPO soon? I definitely think so. I predict it to happen in about 2026. I wanted to end by actually quoting John Rainey, CFO of Walmart, and his bullishness also on PhonePe in Walmart's May investor call. So I'm just going to quote him verbatim. We love the portfolio we have. And if you just focus on the international portfolio right now, there are some really shining stars there, whether it's Walmart or our China business or what's happening in India. But we've indicated that we expect both the top line and operating income for international to outpace the enterprise over the next 5 years. What I can't help but mention is PhonePe and Flipkart. Part of the improvement we saw in the international segment in the first quarter was the improvement in these two companies. They continue to do extremely well. PhonePe right now is generating level of total payment value. So think, GMV in our business, but in the payment business, it's total payment value. And that is a whooping $1.5 trillion. That's like crazy numbers.
Absolutely. And for Walmart to also talk about this in their investor call shows the amount of confidence they have in this particular business. Right? I hope they continue backing it. All right. So that's all for this episode of Disruption Diaries, guys. If you enjoyed this deep dive into PhonePe's success story, make sure you share your thoughts on this. Right. We will be covering a new company next week. Until then, keep building, keep innovating. Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Shantanu.